So last week we finally uploaded the masterclass for the single pour technique, and in that video I said we would go over certain in-depth topics that can actually improve your coffee game. Now this doesn't apply to just the single pour technique, it applies to all kinds of pour over techniques. So invite all your friends to watch this. But today we'll be starting with how to set your grinds in the bed and how that actually improves your coffee. For those of you that don't know, my name is Vincent and I'm the head roaster for Tails Coffee. And if you love experimental and educational videos, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can get the latest updates on my newest techniques. If you haven't already watched last week's masterclass on the single pour, I highly recommend you watch that first. There will be a link right up there. Click that and watch that. But if you have already watched it, you'll know that I love to set and prepare my grinds in the device in a very specific way. I always stir the grinds and then I always have this little divot. Now, why do we need this divot? So for me, I always think that the divot catches the water differently. And so when we have different kinds of coffees that absorb the water differently, we should actually be changing up how we set our grinds accordingly to match what we want to brew and how we want to brew. So the process is quite simple. Kind of looks like this, guys. We've got ourselves a dripper, we throw in the paper filter, and then we put in the grinds. Now, to set it, I always stir my grinds, which helps me declump. Now, declumping allows me to make sure all the water distributes evenly. The next thing I do after I stir is, in all my other videos, I always tap it. Tapping it allows me to pack the grinds, which helps me elongate my first drip. So I'm always gonna have a strong first drip. But when it comes to packing the grinds, we actually have to think about the type of beans we're brewing with. Now, lighter roasts tend to sink a little bit quicker. So if we pack our beans, we're gonna cause too much agitation and sometimes it's gonna make the brew time really long. And for the darker grinds, it might be brewing really quickly. And so if we don't pack it tight enough, we might actually have a very weak and light first drip. So let's talk about the shape of the grinds and what that actually means. So for me, there's a couple of ways you can set your grinds. You can always have it flat, you can have a small little divot, or you can have yourself a very deep V, almost all the way to the bottom. The way you decide on how you set your grinds is kind of how you envision the grinds to catch the water. Now, by that I mean, some of the coffees have a little bit more gas, some of them have a little bit less gas. Do you want your first drip to come out quicker, to have a little bit less texture or richness in it? Then you would go with a deeper V. Or do you want it to have a little bit more extraction time, more deeper, richer flavors? Then you would have a more shallow one. But then again, the gases are always pushing the water away from the bottom or to the bottom. So that's where packing and the shape kind of come hand in hand. And I'm gonna talk about how light roast different from dark roast. So lighter roast coffees, generally you want to have a shorter brew time just because lighter roasts don't give off as much gases. Now, if it doesn't give off as much gases, you're gonna expect it to kind of just be able to extract at an earlier point in the brew time. So we're gonna naturally have a longer extraction time with a lighter roast. Which means for me, I want to stir in a looser way, but in a more shallow kind of way. So more of a shallow divot. And that's because I still want to maximize the amount of time it takes for it to extract the first drip. So I want to have a small little divot where the water kind of gets pushed back into the grinds and it floods the whole thing as quickly as possible. But we pack it loosely just so it can flow out as quickly as possible. So this is going to be the highest extraction with the shortest amount of time. And that's how I like to set and prepare for my lighter roast. So here I've got my lighter roast. It's actually the Tanzania, which is my afternoon nap. As you can see, I've already got the grinds in here. What I mean by stirring shallow is like, you just want to go around the outside and then kind of down to the middle, right? This is how I normally set my grinds, but for lighter roast, because you don't want to have it so deep, you just want to stir from the top and just leave it like that. And then if you want, you can do a tap, but we're not going to. So that's what I mean by having it a little bit more shallow. We're gonna have a really big hole in the middle, but that's just fine. Most of it is gonna be on a flatter side anyways. When we pour, you can just see, we're gonna pour right in the middle, and it just fills it up right away. We're gonna pour really slowly, and you can see, Lighter roasts don't have a lot of gases. There's not gonna be a lot of the white stuff. It's mostly clear coffee bed. And just because of that, we're able to elongate the first drip and pour with the least agitation possible to kind of fully extract all the lighter coffees.
By now, most of you have probably seen Vincent's masterclass. And you know, how are you gonna make a masterclass level pour over coffee without a great dripper? Us here at Tails Coffee, we love using the origami dripper, you know? And it's really important. When people watch you make coffee, it's important that you have that drip. You gotta look cool doing it. So we got all these colors to match your style. We got a matte gray, we got pink, we got red, we got navy, and we have more colors coming soon. So make sure to check out tailscoffee.com, all right, for all your latest updates. Drop your email, we'll send you emails when we get new inventory. Tailscoffee.com, use discount code Candace for 10% off.
For the darker roasts, it's the exact opposite. We're gonna be looking to have a deeper V, but we're gonna want to pack our grinds a lot tighter. Now, by packing the grinds tighter, we're not gonna let the water go down first, and instead when it hits, the gases are gonna push the water back up into the other grinds, which allows us to saturate all the grinds with water as quickly as possible, which allows us to have the most even extraction time for darker and gassier coffee. Now, that's the packing the grinds. The deeper the V though, the reason you want to go with a deeper V is because this maximizes the surface area the water gets pushed back into. Darker coffees generally give off more gases, and you want to get the water into every particle as quickly as possible. So I like to set my grinds with a deeper V, but I like to tap them a little bit tighter. This allows me to have a full extraction because it prevents the waters from being pushed out too quickly by the gases, and it allows me to extract everything as quickly as possible. So here we've got the darker coffees. I'm gonna show you guys how to set this one. We always set the darker coffees with a much deeper V. So you wanna break up all the clumps like that, and then you wanna tap and then tap. You notice how we filled in? You can already see that it's nice and packed. So here we are, we're gonna start in the middle. And you can already see that all the darker kind of fines are floating up towards the top. The darker coffee has already pushed way higher, and it's gonna drain, just start to drain. And this is where we can see the effect of the water being pushed out to the sides. You can see all this like, oh, that's awkward, but don't worry guys. You can see the mushroom cloud and how it just kind of pushes the water away. That's why we want to set it with a deeper V. It's because we want to get all the water to the sides as quickly as possible, and having the deeper V and a tighter pack allows us to do so. I hope this actually clarifies a lot of your questions, and actually it should improve a lot of your coffee brewing techniques. Do try everything out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below on setting your grinds. Has it really improved your game? For me, it's actually been like one of the most important things. I always think like preparation is like 50% of the brew itself. I think just being able to set and understand how to set my grinds has exponentially leveled up my coffee game, and I'm just brewing better coffee overall. In the next video though, I'm gonna teach you guys how to pour to match all of this and refine your technique even further. So make sure to like this if you guys love this kind of content, and leave a comment. Thanks for all your support, and catch you guys in the next one. Bye.